Hey, hey, hey! So, if you love taking classes with me, I want to encourage you to get one for free. Hello! Go in the description below, get the free code, take an online belly dance class with me, and let's have some fun together. Hey, everybody. So, today I'm very, very excited to be talking to you about 3 common mistakes of hip drops. So, let's get into it. The first common mistake that I see when it comes to hip drops is that we are bouncing our entire body. But it's not necessarily bad, but it doesn't work for us when it's unintentional. So we need to be very aware of what our body is doing in order to make it either an intentional bounce or an intentional stationary movement. So what I mean by the bounce is that we do this. Right? Everything goes, and you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? Right? So one of the common things that happens when we bounce our body entirely when we're doing a hip drop is that we're not properly absorbing the energy from our hips. So if I'm going to do a hip drop and I bounce like this is one of the most common things I see, by the way, this reason right here, is I want you to take a look at my legs. I'm going to face you face on. And then from the side, and then from the back. So what do you notice about my legs? You notice that my hip is coming up on my right side. However, it's not being reflected necessarily on the left side. So when your hips work with your legs, you should know deep down in your foundational technique that in order for your hips to move vertically without it affecting necessarily the rest of your body, your legs have to be able to bend and straighten. This is just part of the mechanics of the human body. So if I drop my hip like this as I come up and down with my hip, what ends up happening is when I come down, I end up actually pushing my hip out to the side instead of coming down like this, up and down, right? Because when I push my hip down on this side, it brings this hip up, right? Because the hips work like this. So instead of coming up with this hip as I push this one down, it gets pushed to the side. And when I bring this hip up to prep, what ends up happening is I push into the floor, raising my entire body instead of allowing this leg to bend and this hip to drop down. So what ends up happening is the mistake is I straighten this leg and I don't allow the knee to absorb any of the energy from my hip. The minute I allow my standing weighted leg to bend in accordance with my hip, the bounce goes away. So this is really important for us to know mechanically about our body. So if you have a bounce going on, what you want to do is you want to check your standing leg, specifically in this position, hip lift or hip drop, so that way you can see, are you allowing that standing leg to absorb the energy and allow that hip to drop so this one can come up and then down. So this is very, very important. So we're going to do it the wrong way, and then you're going to adjust and then do it the right way so we can see how that impacts your body. Okay, so on your left side, prop up your heel and have your left hip drop. You're going to straighten out your standing leg, which is your right leg right now, and you're not going to allow it to bend. Okay, so I want you to go into your hip drop. 3, 2, 1. And I want you to notice that your eyes can probably see, if you're looking straight ahead, that you're going like this, right? Because you pretty much not locked your knee, but you locked out your leg from absorbing that energy when the hip comes down. And if you notice, your hip pushes out. This could also be a reason why some of you have pain on the side where your trochanter is, because you're pushing into this without controlling where the energy of your hip is going. So as we're bouncing up and down, we want to alleviate this bounce. So what are we going to do? We're going to allow this knee to give as the hip on our working hip comes down and up. So allow it to come through and allow it to bend and straight. Yeah, so I look down to make sure that everything is okay as you're doing this. down, 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 down. Back to locking that leg. Boom. You can see immediately the difference in your body. Allow that knee to bend and down, down. You'll also notice as this one comes down, this one can actually come up into the rib versus being pushed out to the side. Okay, so if you notice the bounce, one place to check is your knee and if you're locking it out. So the next common mistake that I see is that we are depending too much on our legs in order to accomplish our hip drop. Can we use it as supplemental support for our hip drop? Absolutely. A lot of the time you actually need to in order to provide more power behind your hip drop, but it shouldn't be the motivator behind it. And a lot of the time when we take out the leg, you'll find that your hip agility is weak. So we really need to build up that movement and that vocabulary and that strength and that stamina in your hip. So if you are a type of person to push into the ground and straighten your leg in order to get your hip lift or hip drop, this is going to be a problem for you. The way that you test it out to see how much hip agility you have, what you're going to do is you're going to stand on one leg, hold on to something if you need to for balance, and you're going to release the other leg so that it's floating. Feel free to hook it, feel free to just have it float next to your calf, whatever you need to do, but just find your balancing point. Then if you find yourself sitting right here, straighten up and use your posture using your core and your back and your glutes. So now that you're in an upright position, balancing on one leg, this is how you test it out. Can you still do the exact same movements you were wanting to do without the leg? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hip drop, right? Drop, 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 drop. And like we reviewed in the first one, if you lock out this leg, instead of allowing it to bend and straighten with the hip, what happens? The bounce, right? So this is a great way to test and see what's happening with your body. So drop, 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 drop. I want all my strength to be right here in the hip, and then double time. Push, 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 push. Good. Make sure you're not lifting on the opposite side. Back down, drop, drop. Then you're gonna echo that motivation that you just had using your hip muscle and your abdominals, not the leg. So you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, lift. 1, 2, 3, 4, lift. And you wanna see that it is not affecting your hip drop, right? Because if it is, that means you're probably depending on your leg too much. So we want to rewind and go back to our foundations of really making sure we've trained our hips to be strong and that our body is conditioned to do the work, not coming from the legs. Alrighty, last but not least, one of the other common mistakes I see with hip drop is that we're not releasing the hip drop into its fullest, beautiful range of motion. So what ends up happening is you get this really high lift drop right here. And yes, it can be a stylization, you can use it intentionally, but for those of us who are not conscious about what's happening with our hip range, we need to own that we need to release the hip fully into its drop to really echo our dooms in our music, the full range of our movement, and making sure that this is on point with our musicality and technique level, right? So instead of dropping your hip right here where it's very shallow, push it down, 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 all the way down. If you need help to see that you're pushing all the way down, put your hands on your hip and push, 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 push. Because if you stop up here, you're going to be like, oh, that seems kind of high. And you probably have more to give. Down, 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 down. Push it down, 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 down. You should feel the side of your body stretch, 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 stretch. Go slow. 3, 2, 1. Down, down. Push it down, and down, and down, and down, and down. 2 more. Faster. Here we go. Down, 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 now, faster, and down, 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 down. Make sure your posture is held up nicely, down, 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 down. Good. One of the ways you can really help yourself build your hip agility is to work with your hips on the standing leg. A lot of the time, we are on the non-weighted leg with the working hip. So meaning we have our step, drop, step, drop. See how I'm standing on this leg, but this hip is working? What you want to do to start building this is go on your standing leg and practice using your hip muscles and all of the control here it takes to actually get your body moving. This can't be dependent upon your legs. It also will showcase how much range you are using and whether or not you get a bounce. I love that exercise. It's very simple, but it's very, very precise, and it causes you to really look at your technique with your hip drops. Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope that these tips are helpful for you in taking a look at your hip drops and cleaning up whatever technique there is to clean up for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so you can follow all the yummy, awesome videos that I do. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.